Before we move on to Austin, Austin's going to go deep into each market. Remember, we have this actionable fund. I internally call it Fund 10 because Fund 8, the Pinnacle Fund 8, which is since closed, oversubscribed, $100 million fund, included two of four projects sponsored by Trilogy. We joined forces, we executed in Fund 8, and a particular project in Charlotte is really the template, the blueprint, or the pattern we intend to match here, which formed the genesis of this fund. That is townhome project in Noda. Now I think we're eclipsing close to 90% lease up, an outstanding demonstration of, I think, success between Trilogy and Pinnacle. This fund now is replicating the townhome product in these selected markets in the Southeast, which we think are really primed for significant growth. So that's now where Austin will take us very deep into the specific markets. That is Huntsville, Decatur, and Augusta.
Thanks, Chip. And you'll notice in this fund, but in general, Trilogy's strategy is primarily focused around the Southeast in our investments, and for good reason. The Southeast has been outpacing the greater United States in most growth factors, including population growth, labor force, job growth, and GDP growth. So obviously this is not a new investment thesis, but the fundamentals of the Southeast and why we're invested there are very clear. So Decatur, Georgia is the first project in the fund. It's 45 townhomes just outside of Midtown and downtown Atlanta. Very, very high growing area. You'll see it's well located, about a 30-minute drive or less, depending on traffic, from Midtown and downtown Atlanta. You're about 15 minutes from Emory University, about 10 minutes to downtown Decatur. Been an extremely high growth gentrifying area, and where it is located on the 285 freeway gives you accessibility. You're within a 15 to 30-minute drive from essentially every major employment area in the Atlanta metro. So Atlanta is it's old news in terms of its growth story, but just to reiterate a little bit, it's home to Delta Airlines, the Emory University, and healthcare. It has 29 Fortune 1000 company headquarters, and includes 16 Fortune 500 companies, and has continued to grow in terms of its residency for Fortune 500 companies. And a lot of that is due to Georgia having the lowest cost of business for 8 straight years. The Atlanta MSA itself has the 9th largest GDP in the nation, which is, it's rivaling like Miami, Boston, some what we think of as much larger economic centers. But Atlanta has truly become the kind of the tech, finance, and business capital of the Southeast. And tech employment has grown at 20% over the national average since 2010. Creating 113 billion of economic value, which equates to roughly just under a third of Atlanta's total economic value. So it's been a sneaky tech hub in the United States. And then in the submarket specifically, we've seen significant growth of household income coming in at 4.5% for 3 years in a row. So Augusta, Georgia, this is a larger project for 245 townhomes. This is obviously a much different location relative to Atlanta, a much different market. There's some extremely compelling drivers here on why we are really hot on Augusta, and we're very, very well located here as well. About 15 minutes from downtown Augusta, about 8 minutes or less from an entrance to Fort Eisenhower, which I'll touch on in a moment and why that's so important. And then about 8 to 10 minute drive to the Doctors Hospital of Augusta Medical Facility and Center, which is a massive medical campus. So Augusta has a very interesting market driver and future ahead of it that I think bodes extremely well for an opportunity zone fund. So Fort Eisenhower was renamed a year ago from Fort Gordon. It's now the U.S. Cyber Command headquarters. It was one of 8 facilities across the country. The U.S. Cyber Command has now consolidated all 8 facilities into Fort Eisenhower. With that, they have a $2 billion improvement plan that they're going to implement over the next decade, and that's going to run a total annual economic impact of $2.4 billion. And that's public and private investment. And with the leaps and bounds that we're making in AI, and the leaps and bounds that have been made in the tech industry over the past decade, one of the pieces of that tech industry as a defense against the potential use of technology as a weapon is cybersecurity. So them relocating and consolidating their cyber command headquarters here, we think will have a massive private industry impact into the Augusta market. So right now, Fort Eisenhower employs 31,000 employees. Between just about a third of those are military and 2/3 are civilian employees. But they generally use, the US military uses a ratio of 2 to 1, meaning for every one job on base, it generally creates two jobs conservatively into the community. So Fort Eisenhower itself, as it stands, should create an annual job impact of 64,000 of community job creation. But I think that's really going to increase as they build out their cyber command center, and then there's continued private investment into the cybersecurity space there. Doctors Hospital of Augusta is one of the best hospitals in the nation. That's one that's just up the road. It's the 23rd ranked teaching hospital in the nation, is consistently ranked in the top 100 hospitals in the nation as well. So, and, Augusta in general is just seeing significant investment from across the country into the Augusta MSA, seeing $6 billion of economic investment over the last 7 years. And that trend is continued to grow. And it also has the Masters tournament. So that's not a bad second thing either. So, and then Huntsville, Alabama, it's a 172 townhomes. Again, very well located, 15 minutes from downtown Huntsville, and an excellent school district as well. So Huntsville is affably known as the Rocket City. In fact, their minor league baseball team is known as the Rocket City Trash Pandas, but they were named the Rocket City because of its history of aerospace and defense innovation. So there's three very key pieces to that. Redstone Arsenal being the first. It's the U.S. Army's Center for Missile and Rocket Programs, and it's been there since the 1950s. That has about 50,000 civilian and contract employees. Cummings Research Park, it's the second largest research park in the nation, and I think the fifth largest in the entire world. And that has more than 26,000 employees and has obviously household names such as Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and IBM. And then Huntsville is also home to NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center, which also has 7,000 employees. And all the growth in Huntsville, for as much as it's grown, not just because it's a great place to live, but it's grown because the job growth has just been so substantial, with 3% annual job growth over the last 5 years and a 2% unemployment rate. It's also very extremely well educated market with the highest PhD per capita anywhere in the nation.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Austin.